All right, good morning, everyone. My name's Jen Bunty. I work for the Consortium of Appalachian Fire Managers and Scientists. For those of you not familiar with the consortium, we are part of the Knowledge Exchange Network funded through the Joint Fire Science Program. Part of our mission is to connect researchers and land managers and to support fire science and management throughout the Appalachian Mountains. You can learn more about us by visiting our website, www.appalachianfire.org, or through our Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/CAFMS. Today, along with the Central Appalachians Fire Learning Network, we have a great presentation for you from Jason Hattersley. Just a quick couple of things before I tell you about Jason. He's going to give about a 30-minute presentation, and then we will have time for Q&A. If you have questions, you can either type them in the chat window, or you can click the icon at the top with a raised hand, and I'll be able to give you microphone access to ask your question. So a little bit about Jason before I hand it over to him. He is the timber sale administrator for the U.S. Forest Service on the James River and Warm Springs Ranger Districts in the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest. Jason began his forestry and wildland fire career in 1996 as a summer student working for the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. He continued his work with that department for 4 years following college as a forestry technician covering forest surveying, timber cruising, and controlled burning, along with assisting state and federal agencies as a firefighter. In 2002, he became a senior firefighter for the Forest Service on the GWJF and served as a forestry technician outside of the fire season. He developed a proficiency in GIS across this varied platform and performed numerous projects in data collection and display at the district level. He went on to serve as a GIS specialist for the Type 1 Southern Area Blue Team, and then eventually as the Situation Unit Leader, managing fire intelligence from the ground and relaying this information in a usable format to agency administrators and incident commanders on wildfires and all-risk events. He started his current position in 2008 and manages the active timber sale contracts on a complex range of landscapes throughout Western Virginia, while continuing to participate and support local, regional, and national wildland and controlled burn programs. He's now in his 21st season as a wildland firefighter. He's qualified as a Type 4 incident commander, single resource boss, firing boss, RX burn boss T2 trainee, and a division group supervisor. He first gave this presentation at the Central Appalachians Fire Learning Network annual workshop last November. It was something that we at the consortium and our partners at the Central Appalachians FLN felt would be so beneficial to so many of our partners that we asked him to present it again in webinar form. So with that, Jason, if you'd like to take it away.
All right, thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. That was a mouthful, but I guess to sum it all up is to say that I've had the privilege of being on the ground and utilizing the various technologies to help support decisions and implement projects from the ground perspective. And over the past 5 years or so, this specific tool and application has been vitally important, and it's continuing to grow. So it's a good opportunity to share it with others if you're not familiar with it, or perhaps even have that opportunity to take it to the next step during this upcoming field season. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started into the presentation. It's kind of covering some basics. I start off assuming that you've never heard of Avenza before. I apologize if this is old hands to you, but again, this is an introduction course, and we can take it further during a Q&A if you want to get more detailed. But I'm assuming everybody is able to follow along on the screen well. Avenza Maps, it's been around for 6 or 7 years now. It used to be called PDF Maps, but this past season they have upgraded to a little bit more complex and systems, and now it's called Avenza Maps. It is available. See if I can click it. It is available on all different platforms now, so whether you're an iOS, an Android, or a Google user, you can get it on all those different platforms. Some just very basics of it. It is capable of reading geospatial PDFs, geotiffs. You have access to a map store with hundreds of thousands of other maps that are out and available, and I'll cover specifics on these in greater detail further in the presentation, but just giving you some highlights on what Avenza is. It's simple gestures that are familiar with anybody using mobile devices. So from the zoom in, zoom out, flick, page, scan, It's the same features as if you were looking at your photo slides or updating your Facebook status. It's that same gesture navigation. You have the ability of adding place marks, and we'll cover that further later. But what's a GPS unit without documenting where you've been and where you want to go to? You import and export data. That's one of the really nice things about this, is being able to share and capture your data and get that disseminated out to the people on the ground or back at the office, whoever may have that need for it. You can make your edits with your place marks on the fly, so you have easy access to get in there and make changes. You can plot your photos with this application, and their photos are plotted with a georeference tag, so you have your lat and long associated with it. It's great for monitoring. You can also view your location on the map. You can record your GPS tracks just like a standard GPS unit. You can just, essentially it's dropping the breadcrumbs as you're walking along or as you're driving, wherever you're going, but it'll just follow you if that's the option that you choose. Then you can find your coordinates. You can quickly access numerous map tools that are available, and you can measure areas around, whether it's in a line or in a polygon format. You can still use that to measure, so if you want to know how big of an area is or what you got left, those are all options that are available in this application. So what we've already talked about, and there at the bottom is opening maps. This is a really handy feature that I don't think I get into it in great detail further in the presentation, but just to make reference that if you're on a map on your Avenza Map application on your mobile device, and you want to see what that looks like in Google Maps, it's as simple as tapping on that place mark and opening up the other platform. So even Google Earth, you can go right from your location in your map to Google Earth, and it's all geo-referenced. And so then that'll give you a good access into some aerial photography if you're kind of curious on structures and roads, some other features that may be around you. And of course you can use it for a find function, find features as well. Alright, so kind of the nitty gritty of it. That was a really quick overview of what Avenza is and kind of what it does. And I kind of go ahead and assume that most of you already are aware of what I've covered. But this is getting into the basics now of how does it actually operate. So when you start Avenza, and I hope that most of you have this maybe even on your desk in front of you now, you've got your mobile device in front of you and have it opened up. It should look something very similar to the screen that you see there with my map list. You have four main layers. There's four, the PDF Maps app has four main tabs, and you'll see that that's Maps, Layers, you have a Store, and the Settings. So it's fairly basic. It keeps it simple, which is good for me. In the map view, so if you click that map, which I'll go back one slide, so if you click this Maps tab, that'll open up into your maps. The map view, you're going to have four more features in there. You've got a back button. That's always your way out. So if you get stuck somewhere, just look for that top left corner, and that's going to take you back out to the previous screen. You've got a search option, so if you want to search for layers, places, the things like that. Map information, that's that little eye icon. That's kind of a standard universal icon. To find more information, and this specific eye will be in reference to the map itself. So if you want to know where it's at, who created it, you can select that information icon. And then you have your toolbar down here. So that lower section, we'll get into that next. So in that toolbar feature, you have the little arrow. That's your GPS and compass button. If you click that once, it'll navigate your GPS, so it'll zoom you into your location. You'll be a little blue dot on the map, assuming that you're on the map. If you can note at the bottom of this screen, it says not on map, so yeah, obviously it is what it says it is. If you're on map, latitude and longitude would be displayed in that that vicinity. Number 2 there is add place mark. So that would be the same as adding a waypoint if you're used to using Garmin's or DeLorme's or Trimble's. That would be adding your place marker, adding a waypoint along the way. It's as simple as adding that little thumbtack, so to speak. It'll plot it wherever your crosshair is at, is where that will plot that place mark. So you don't have to be standing in that location to plot your place marks. Over in 3 is your layers tool under that toolbar. That will list all of the various layers or place marks that you've collected that are associated with that map, or even inside of other maps. You can grab layers from elsewhere. And then in 4 is your map tools. That'll get into your measuring, or that's where you would find, as I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to open up that map in a different display such as Google Maps or Google Earth, that's where you would go to in that little wrench and go into your tools. So the maps, the map list is an easy way to access and view the maps. This is what you're going to see. This is your standard, display when you're in Avenza. Obviously, if you don't have any maps in yours yet, it would be blank, but as you build your library, that's where they would be displayed at. In there is listed the title of the maps, the map publishers. You'll also notice even the distance you are away from the map. So you'll kind of see where am I at in reference. And if you're on the map, or if you're in a vicinity that you have maps that are available to you, it'll actually say in there, instead of a distance, it'll just say on map. Now, maps, you have to get them in there somehow, right? How do you do that? It's by tapping the add icon to import your map. So you can import maps in several different ways. One, the most obvious way, is you have the Avenza Map Store. Like I say, there's hundreds of thousands of opportunities to download various maps out there. All the USGS quads are available for a free download. That's a great place to look. iTunes file sharing, it's almost becoming an archaic way of downloading data anymore with the wireless technology and the cloud-based sharing, but it's still an option. So if you have a large data set, say if you have, an example for us would be an initial attack data set. So we have our entire districts set up in topo quads with our specific fire information that we'd want to show on those maps. And so if you're going to do a large batch file transfer, that would be the easiest way, is by the iTunes file sharing. Dropbox is your other option that you can import your map. And so you would just select from Dropbox, input into your Dropbox account, and it'll take you right to that location. The QR code reading, that's another option. You can kind of see up here you have a QR scanner. We'll get into that just a little bit detail here in a couple more steps. But that's what you're finding if you're involved in any kind of incidents, whether it's really in this day and age a type 4, type 3, type 2, and 1 fire incident. You'll see QR codes on the front page of an IAP or in some other kind of publication around. You'll even see them out on trailheads now as you're going around, those little QR codes. That'll just scan you straight to a website that that map is hosted at, and you can download it from there. And of course, you always have the internet. If you know a website where your map is located, you can just put in your direct web address and it'll take you there to get your map. So importing maps from the PDF Map Store, you need to create an account, but there's so many in there that are not that are free. It's an easy access, but you also have some really good National Geographic maps that you can buy, some top quality maps that are relatively inexpensive and certainly invaluable if you're using them for the field. So like I say, with that, an account is not required, but it is recommended, because with that account you'll be able to track your purchases along the way. And so if you go from one device to another, you're able to sync those up and have that same information on all your different devices by that one account. As we mentioned, the iTunes is certainly a form, but it's becoming an archaic form, but it's still available. That's where you would enter into your Dropbox account. You sign in. It's a one-time sign-in. It'll will remember your account, and it'll be there every time that you upload it. And as I mentioned earlier, that would be your QR scanner. That's the built-in Avenza QR scanner. There's also numerous external scanners, so it depends on your preference. If you're like most people, I guess you would use your QR scanner for more than just maps. Perhaps you're scanning your shopping list or something like that. You want to scan barcodes at a store to see where the best price is. Those same QR scanners would work, and you'd be able to import that that map into Avenza. This is a reference of the external QR code reader. As I mentioned, it's just, it's outside. It's a third-party application outside of Avenza to read QR codes. So the first time that you would open up a website with your QR code, this is just a little tip for extra benefit. Once you open up that website, this is an example of a Forest Service mapping website. It's available to the public. But the first time that you would open it up, you'd click the little icon at the bottom to give you more options. That would open up an option to add to home screen. What that would do is essentially send a shortcut to your home screen on your mobile device. And obviously all of this is being referenced over to iOS and to the Apple products, but this would work in the other platforms as well. But that just creates a shortcut on your home screen so you don't have to keep rescanning. If you're going to a main map portal that you're working with on a consistent basis, or find something that's very useful, you can just save that as a shortcut on your mobile device home screen, and that's how you would do it. And so then every time on your home screen that you would click that, it would take you back to your main page there. So when you're scanning with your QR code reader to import these maps, and this is probably the most of what I cover with the importing the maps out of everything else, because this is the important thing to get the maps onto your product, and then you can start walking around with it. But when you first scan it, you would tap in the middle of the map, that kind of brings out this top layer of some more options at the top. And you would see that you'd get this option here to open in Avenza Maps. You would just select that, just click it with your finger or your stylus, and it would automatically open up Avenza Maps and start importing it into it. Then importing it from the web, this is just an example that I have. If any of you are familiar with fire incidents, especially on the federal side, the NIFC, the National Interagency Fire Center in Boise, Idaho, maintains a FTP site. On that FTP site is all the incident-specific data for every incident that's considered a significant or a large event. That is ftp.nifc.gov. It's open for public access. If you want to get in there to that level, and you can download. You have to have permissions to upload, but you can download some of their maps on there. So if you're heading to an incident or even to some of the larger prescribed burns around on the federal side, that'd be where you can go find your map there. So once you've downloaded your maps, it's now a matter of managing them. It's kind of just file management like you would do in anything else from the computer side of things. You want to be able to put them in folders or organize them or rename them, delete them, shift them around. And so where you'd find that is on your main screen at the top right is the edit option. Once you select edit, it opens up this row of options here. You have the option of adding a folder, moving a folder, or deleting. And then you can select on each individual either folder or map itself to gain more information about those. So moving maps or folders around, it's just a matter of selecting it. You would click it once, and it would show that it was selected by the check mark. And that would give you the opportunity up here then to either move it or create a new folder with it once you have those selected. To quick delete, you can simply do the gesture of swiping to the left, like you would clear out an email in your email system. So a quick swipe will also delete it. So viewing your map. So now you've got them downloaded, you've got them organized into some folders, or at least in some kind of naming convention that you're familiar with. Once you open that map, it's just a matter of selecting it. Tap it once, it'll open it up. And as I mentioned, if you're on the screen, it'll show you your lat and long down here, and you can hit the GPS button, that little arrow on the bottom left, and that'll zoom you to your current location. But again, some of the main tools that you'll see there is you have the back opportunity, you have a search function, more information, and then your compass. And again, all your main gestures for mobile technology works within this map. So if you want to zoom in, it's just a matter of pinch and zoom. Double tap will zoom into the center of the object. So as I mentioned, if you tap the GPS button, you can find your location on the map. This would be that reference. You would see this blue dot with that blue halo around the dot. That is roughly your approximate error is what that blue halo represents. As you first start up the Avenza maps, you'll notice, like any other GPS, it takes just a second to determine your location. It does it through triangulation, and as it gets, I guess, more in tune with your location, that circle will become smaller and smaller. That'd be your level of accuracy within there. So on devices with built-in GPSs, your location's triangulated within a few seconds, and then depending on your combination of cellular data, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, and the GPS, it could take a little bit longer. So if you tap the GPS button again, you'll enable the compass view, and so you can turn your mobile device at this point into a compass. As it's flat in your hand and you're turning it around, it will navigate with you just like a compass would. You would notice up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little compass rose. The red arrow, is pointing north. That would be your north side. And so as you spin, your map will spin with you and kind of align things. Very handy tool. You can get kind of stuck in that though and realize, well, how do I get back out of it? Simply hit the arrow again. This bottom left-hand arrow, your compass button, and that will automatically zoom it back to the north and redirect your map where north would be facing up. Really handy feature on this is how quickly you can change your coordinate systems. This matters to you if you're interested in aviation at all or need to talk to aircraft. They prefer decimal degrees. A lot of scientists prefer UTMs. It just depends on how you want to show your coordinate systems. But if you click the lat and long at the bottom on your map screen, that will give you this display format, and you can just select whichever display you would like to see that in. It's just a handy quick converter. It does it all for you, and it'll display it in however you like to view it. So adding a place mark, as I mentioned in the very beginning, that little pin, that drop pin, is how you would add a place mark. To do that, you would simply just pan to the location, your crosshair. In this scenario, it's that gray little crosshair. Wherever that is centered at is where that drop pin will be placed. If you're a new user to Avenza, you'll kind of get thrown off the first couple of times using that because you may not be, you may forget. It's likely that you would forget your crosshairs, and it would be off in a corner. You go to place a place mark thinking that is going to be on your blue dot, that's your current location, and it's not. That place mark will only drop where the crosshair is at. If you click the information tab on that place mark, it'll give you another opportunity in here to work on some naming conventions. So you can rename it up here. You can change the icon setting. You can have opportunities for setting up descriptions, or if you have a photo that you would like to attach to that same place mark. This would be where all that is done and controlled by, is from that information tag inside of that place mark. So searching a map, if you have a, if you're in an environment where you're still connected to the internet, you can simply do a search. If you're searching for a business or something nearby, or even other place marks, if you've got them named appropriately, just in that search function, you can type it in there and it'll show you what's available. So, for example, if you're trying to navigate around New York City and you want to know where the closest Starbucks is, you can type in Starbucks if you've got the map pulled up, and it'll still show you from Avenza here. Using your layers inside of the map. Once you've created those layers, to start using them and shifting them around, that would be that. Let me go back one more, I guess, show you. So again, right here is where you would find your layers. That's where you'd find your whole list of them. You select that. And that will pop up all the different layers that are associated with your files. So in there you can add and import them. So you can also export them out from there, those layers. You can see your GPS tracks, whatever photos you have. Again, that just gives you that access to everything that you have in there. A list of layers linked to the map are shown by default. Layers are organized by the types of the lines, photos, place marks, imported features. And although the map features can belong on any layer, the layer thumbnail is blue is the one that is active. So you notice there's a blue one here, and then there's a series of gray ones. Only the blue one is active at the moment. That's what we're dealing with. So again, to view that information for that layer, it would be select the information icon, and that'll bring you up a list of other opportunities or other options that you have inside of that. Things that you can do, like I mentioned, is name them. You can even lock them now. This is an update in the new Avenza Pro. You can lock them so you can't delete them by accident, or somebody else isn't going to delete it on accident if they pick up your device. You can also set up tracks, and we'll get into schemes here in a few minutes, or actually next. But you can also start adding schemes here. So an attribute scheme defines an attribute, its type, its name, and associated properties with an optional pick list. Where this is really handy if you're doing data collection or some kind of consistent information download. So for an example, if you're doing some road surveys and you need to know conditions of culverts as you're driving the road, and you're going to have the same conditions as you go through of excellent, good, poor, you can set that up so you don't have to keep retyping it every time. You can just have that scheme, that layer option to continue to add to that layer file. So as you make that place mark inside of it, you'd have this pick list to choose from to navigate through. On the layer list screen, to import new layers, you've got two options down here. You have a little stack of papers with an arrow pointing down, and a stack of papers with an arrow pointing up. The arrow pointing down is importing, and the one pointing up is exporting. So this is where Avenza becomes really handy, especially in our natural resource environment, or more specifically with utilizing it in the fire world. Is that somebody's creating some layers and capturing whether it's dozer lines, control lines, special points of interest along the way, and they have those on their device. They can easily send them over to you, and you can import them in, and this is where you would find that at. Another way that I kind of a helpful tool that I help utilize this and keep in my mind straight which one's import and export. The arrow pointing down is usually pointing back at me as I'm holding the device, and so that means that the data, the information is coming to me. And then the other one with the arrow pointing up, that means it's pointing to the person standing in front of me or around me. That information is going out, so that's the output or the export. You can import from several different sources, so that's existing layers, or from KMLs. KMLs are what you'll find in Google Earth. That's a Google Earth language, so if somebody were creating some waypoints with that, that's where they'd find them at. Managing those layers. On a map, you can import existing layers from the other maps. You can do that by tapping the individual layers themselves and then click apply. Where, as I mentioned, you can import them from KMLs. And those KMLs, you can get them from the same places that you'd get your maps from. So from the iTunes file sharing, from Dropbox, from QR codes, from the web. And now you can even get them via AirDrop or Android Beam. So you can get them wirelessly just by those individuals that are standing around you. So then the adverse of the importing the layers is the exporting the layers. So the data is no good if it just stays on your phone. You need to get this back into whether it's a a full robust GIS system and you're doing database management, or you need to share this with other resources around you, whatever you're capturing out in the field. And so the way you would do that again is by that little stack of papers with the arrow pointing up away from you. That would be your export, and it would come up with a whole list of export options. Would be your next screen. And again, you have the file name in the send to. That's where you could click that and you would have your options of you want to send it via email, you want to upload it to Dropbox, file sharing, or the AirDrop. You can change the format. The format you can send those layers and information up to is in, like I mentioned, in the KML. You can send it up as a CSV, which is essentially like an Excel spreadsheet. The GPX format, it can go up to those. That would be handy for individuals working with Garmins. That's what Garmins speak with. And then the new features, this is in Pro only. You can export shape files now. This is new for 2017. That's really helpful for the GIS people on the other side of things. They don't have to do conversions back in the office. So map collections. This is a very useful tool. Once you start building your map libraries, it's going to get out of hand if you just have 50 different maps and finding those maps around. But a map collection is a special folder that contains a set of maps, and it treats them as a larger collective. This allows you to pan to adjacent maps within the collection without having to reload another map. So the example here would be for if you're working on a district or a forest level, you can have your entire district under one map collection. And so when you're interested in working on that district, you just open up that folder for the district and all your maps are there. What that will look like once you have a map collection folder open, you would have this box of tiles up in the upper right hand corner on your inset. And how you would navigate around excuse me, would just simply be by panning the map. And as you're going from one tile or one topo quad to the next, it would just be a matter of panning left, right, up or down, and that map collection will automatically view you to the next available topo quad that would be adjacent to your location. This also works with scale and reference. So as you have maps that are at a larger scale, so are kind of a project level overall scale map, but you have a more detailed map that would be zoomed in a little bit tighter to your specific burn unit perhaps, you can have those collected vertically as well. And so as you zoom in, that next map will automatically pop up as you get to that scale. It's extremely helpful. So as mentioned in the map store, the list goes on and on forever. It's just a matter of searching for what you want. One of the ways that I use it the most myself is by using the map, and I'll just zoom into my location and all the maps that are available show up as these little blue icons, and as you zoom in you can click on them and it'll tell you exactly what it is. Give you an example here. So as you zoom in you get tighter and tighter and you can kind of see what's available. You can click the information icon for that map and it'll pop up exactly what it is, and if it's free or if there's a cost to it. And then if you wanted to download it, just a matter of selecting that and following the next protocol, which would be, hit the install now or make sure you have the purchase now or buy options that are in there. So you've heard me reference a little bit about standard and pro versions. Pro just came out, I think technically it came out in December. It's just making its switch for the 2017 season coming up. The folks at Avenza were super helpful working with all the federal agencies and state agencies. That they delayed their rollout on this post the 2016 burn season so it wouldn't catch any of our resources off guard as they're out and about. But on this screen you can kind of see some of the differences, and at the core level there's not much to the average user. You can still load offline maps. You can still plot photos, plot place marks, locate yourself with GPS units. But where the difference is really going to come out to be, and how it's going to matter to you as a natural resource professional, is importing your own maps. In the standard version, you're now capped at 3 total maps that you can have uploaded yourself. So what that means is if you're making GIS project maps, at your office, and you're taking those to the field on your mobile device by using Avenza, if you only have that standard version, you can only have 3 of them on your mobile device at a time now. If you purchase or have access to the Pro version, the Pro version gives you unlimited access, so you can have as many of those special maps that you want to. Those custom maps is what we call those. In the standard version, you can have as many purchase maps as you want to, but again, those are purchase maps. Most of the use is coming from the create your own kind of PDF, GeoPDF versions. If you happen to be on any of the federal agencies listening here, I'm not sure where our audience is really coming from, but a lot of our federal agencies have purchased enterprise licenses for the year. So if you're with the Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, talk with your GIS professionals. They have access to the subscription codes for the Pro version. They're available to all the field-going personnel, like I say, from an enterprise standpoint. And for reference, if you're not familiar with those Pro versions, I think that ends up costing you about $120 a year for the full-blown Pro version, or you can just get access for $30 a year. It's kind of a mid-tier option to add unlimited access to custom maps. So kind of wrapping this really rapid intro session up, just some real small tips here as you go through, and hopefully you're going to start playing with this in the immediate future using these out on the ground. But PDF maps will only display KMLs with points and lines. They won't show polygons. This throws some people off in their first access or the first couple of days of using this. Polygons aren't capable of being shown in the Avenza PDF maps, just points and lines. As a reference, most forests, national forests, have forest visitor maps in the map store. So if you're traveling around or going from incident to an incident, or just on a recreation status, you search that national forest website and get access to the visitor maps and motor vehicle use maps. They're free and extremely helpful and handy to use on the ground. As I mentioned earlier in the very beginning here, all topo maps, all the USGS quads are available in the map store. And just my side note here is that this application works fantastic for project level layout, doing photo points if you're doing any kind of burn monitoring, and even progress tracking if you're out burning and you want to know how much time you've got left or how much area you have left. This is such a useful and handy tool. It's amazing it's been free for as long as it has been. So with that, it kind of wraps up my quick down and dirty introduction into Avenza PDF maps. I'll be more than glad to turn it over to Jen from here and open it up to any questions that you may have or any specific comments or concerns.
Great. Thank you, Jason. It's a great presentation. And I know since we've watched your presentation in November here at the consortium, we've started using Avenza maps for some of our monitoring projects and things like that. So hopefully others will take your guidance and put it on the ground. And it looks like we have a couple questions already in the chat session. So we'll start with Andy's question. Andy asked, so if you bring in IA resources onto your district, do you direct them to download the maps so they can collect and share data with you?
Yes, we do. We will have those available in a Dropbox or a separate account and share those IA maps with our incoming resources. On any of our fires that usually last more than a 24-hour period, we're producing maps and got those hung up on a FTP site, with a QR code attached to it for the next day's IA shift. So I'm finding that to be almost mandatory on every incident you go to now. I'm seeing more digital maps in iPads, iPhones, Galaxies, what have you, whatever your mobile device. I'm seeing more of those on the line than I am paper maps at compared to what it was even 2 years ago.
All right, great. And we have a question from Matthew Vaughn. Yes, so if I've already purchased a particular paper Nat Geo trail map, can I download the digital version of it for free from the Avenza Map store?
No, I think I'm not an expert on that, but it's my understanding that that's going to be two different platforms. I don't think if you buy the paper version, it's going to give you access to the digital copy. So unfortunately, I'm going to say the answer is likely no.
Okay, and a question from Sergio Harding. We are in the second year of a large multi-year citizen science project here in Virginia, Second Virginia Breeding Bird Atlas. Hundreds of volunteers involved. We, the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, have created thousands of PDFs of topo maps with survey boundaries and volunteers. Let's see. Well, I lost my spot. Volunteers were using in the field for free before Avenza started charging an annual fee to use more than 3 maps at a time. Is there a workaround so as to avoid asking volunteers to pay this annual fee and still be able to use multiple maps in the app? For example, have volunteers store the maps on their phone and add and delete them to and from the app as they need them? Are you aware of any fee waivers for volunteers for a project like this?
I would. This is coming from the State Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, but I would, direct them to their GIS professionals. I know I can only speak to the Forest Service side. I know we have agreements within our enterprise licensing to allow access to our cooperators and volunteers for our same subscription to Avenza Pro. So I'm not sure if VDGIF has a similar enterprise agreement or not, but their GIS specialist out of Richmond could likely help them take that next step. Other than that, on the surface, they're kind of stuck with 3 custom maps at a time, unless they wanted to pay that extra. I think it's $30 if they just want access to unlimited custom maps, but it's a payment. To be quite honest with you, the value for what we get out of it, I'm still impressed that it's only as little as it is for that subscription. It's been free for 6 or 7 years, and it's blown my mind that it's been able to be free just because it's that good.
All right, and Jesse Anderson asked, do you have any good reference guides for georeferencing maps? For example, property boundary maps in ARC for use in Avenza.
So if this is getting into a GIS question side of it, I'm understanding it, but to reference guides for georeferencing maps. So if you're in ArcGIS and creating whatever project level map or map that you're creating in there, when you go to export that map, you have the option of exporting it as a PDF. And if you go down into your advanced options when you do that export as PDF, just make sure that attach world file is selected with it, and it'll automatically make that PDF geo-referenced. And so it'll be good to go, and that's the only way you can use it in Avenza. Once you toggle that on once, it's already set up, and it'll be there for the rest of your time on ArcGIS.
All right, the next question from Jesse. Do you have any, from Mary, is there a limit to the drop-down box?
From the Dropbox, I'm assuming Mary's talking about. There is a limit for free. It's a limit for how large of a storage box you can have. So it's essentially like having a post office box at the post office. You're going to pay in accordance to what size box you need. There's a standard version that meets all of our needs that's free from a district level. But if you have a larger area you're covering or more map products that you need to put in there, it's kind of scaled in proportion to what kind of size you need. So you'll end up getting out of the free realm and have to pay a little bit to have your own corporate level Dropbox account.
All right, next question is from Thomas. Can you reiterate how to move info from one map to another, i.e. copying layers and attributes from one map to another?
Yeah, that's that's something that we cover really quick in this presentation. Again, of course, but the layers themselves are not specifically attached to a map product. So the layers are kind of just out there, in your phone, in that storage, that are usable and available to all the different maps that you're in. So you may have, 3 different maps trying to say different things of the same area, and you can take those layers on and off or move them around. And the way you do that is by going into your layer option. So that would be that 3rd button on the bottom of your toolbar that has a little drop pin along with the lines next to it. You could select that, and from there it would be a matter of seeing exactly all the layers that are available to you, and then just select the ones that you'd be interested in showing on your map. And then in the top right corner you'll have the option of saying apply. So you would select the layers that you would want, hit apply, and they should show up on your map. Hopefully that answers the question.
All right, next question. Are there fee waivers or reductions for nonprofit organizations?
That would be an Avenza-specific question. I haven't seen that myself come up or have read about that anywhere else. I would direct you to the Avenza Maps website. You can go to avenza.com and look there for that specific information for fee reductions or for nonprofits.
You may be able to coordinate something with them even if they don't have a program.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you have a free version. The standard version is free. The only thing that caps you at is 3 custom maps. And then also you don't have access, or you can't export as shape files, but you can still do a whole lot with the standard free version.
Okay, another question from Mary. Is there a limit to the data that is collected? She gives the example of waypoints, layers to the attribute table.
I haven't seen that limit come across yet, and again, I'm using this for a project level or incident type level collection point. So from that, I'm not collecting robust amounts. I don't have years worth of data on there, nor would I really want years worth of data on my phone, because it's an electronic device and it will go down one day. So I don't want to have all my field work on one piece of equipment. So I personally do a good job, or I try to do a good job with importing, collecting what I need, and then exporting that out into my desktop or my GIS environment. And so from there I can build up the rest of my databases. But I haven't seen any specific limits to what you can collect and what you can have on there. I think it's going to be more capped with what kind of phone storage you have, and we're talking about very minute files here if you're just doing points of Latin longs or some lines along the way.
All right, and do you know, does Avenza provide a tutorial or practice training tool?
They absolutely do. There's numerous YouTube videos that are available, and my disclaimer is I've started this PowerPoint presentation with a lot of the Avenza tutorial information coming right off of their website. I've kind of made some tweaks and updates of my own to show my own maps and what my device looks like, but they do have more information out there. You can certainly go to YouTube. YouTube can teach you how to do everything.
Can the info from Avenza be taken and used in FSVEG?
I'm not that familiar with utilizing FSVEG myself, so I'm assuming FSVEG is going to be on the geospatial side, so you're working with ArcMap or ArcGIS platform. So from that standpoint, if that's accurate, the answer is yes, because you can take your Avenza information that you're collecting it and export it out as a shapefile. So when it comes in, it's a shapefile. So that point line can be then added into FSVEG. It's my understanding with the geospatial component of FSVEG.
Give you guys just one more second to type in a few more questions. Oh, great question. Can you import maps from Google Drive?
You absolutely can. Google Drive is essentially the same thing or the same format as a Dropbox. So it's a cloud-based storage. Any kind of cloud-based storage, you can have it in there and import it into it. Yep, same processes.
All right, we still have a few more people typing. While they're typing out their last comments and questions, I just want to add that we are recording this webinar and we will be putting it up on the CAFM's website, appalachianfire.org, and also sending it out via Facebook and Twitter or announcements that it'll be available. So you'll have a chance to be able to go back and look at the presentation or share it with others. All right, we got one more question. How do you do that? I only see 2 locations for importing maps. He's asking about the Google Drive.
So if my memory serves me correct, I believe with the Google Drives, it's going to be a matter of importing it in. So you'll be importing that map from essentially the website itself. As I'm talking about it, I'm clicking on my phone to confirm. Yeah, bear with me for just a second here. Make sure I have it right. Now I can't pull up any quick maps here, but the one way I'm seeing this, I believe that question was from Morris, is if you open up Google Drives on your mobile device and you navigate to that PDF, and when you open that PDF up, it'll give you the option then in that upper right hand corner. If you have Avenza loaded up, you should be able to at that point open up your burn or whatever map it is that you're trying to open up. So from Google Drive itself would be your platform, or at least that's the one that I'm currently going through. You would open up your map from Google Drive, tap on it once it opens up, and say open in Avenza.
All right, we have one more. As far as uploading a track log into ArcGIS, is there a significant difference between exporting the track log in Avenza as a SHP or KML?
There's not a big difference. It depends on your steps. So if you're doing it as a KML, you would need a third-party program like the DNR GPS program that would convert that KML into a shapefile. So it adds an extra step versus if you're exporting it from Avenza as a shape, you can just take it directly into ArcGIS and you'd be ready to utilize it. So there's not that big of a difference. It just depends on who the end user is and whether they have the GIS skills or abilities, how they want to handle it. What you'll see is there's some managers or so there's some resources out there that are really good with Google Earth and not as familiar with GIS. So with the KML, they can take that information and load it in Google Earth and view it and make whatever decisions that they needed to make, or view what they wanted to see from the Google Earth environment, versus the ones that are doing a little bit more longer term analysis and trying to capitalize on data management and maintaining a database. Obviously, that's going to stay in the shapefile format and be more consistent.
All right, it looks like that is the end of our questions, unless anybody wants to type in another quick one here. Jason, do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
I don't. I would, other than, I would encourage our participants to get out and play with it. Like any other tool, it just takes a little bit of getting familiar with the buttons and the options that are available to you. I would encourage you to play with it before you need it. If you show up on an incident or burn or whatever project, that's not the time to learn it. The time to learn it is now, when you have a controlled environment and opportunities to seek the answers. So that way, when it comes down to decision time, you're able to truly utilize it for the tool that it is, and be of service.
Yeah, and a great time. One of the ways that we are trying it out with the consortium is with photo points right now. So because we had a lot of wildfires here in the South. You might have heard about that at the end of last year. We're doing some photo points to watch the change in the forest, and it's been great tool for that, and really great way to learn it too. Well, I guess that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you Jason from myself and from, it looks like you're getting a lot of comments here in the chat section of saying thanks and that this is a great presentation. So
well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.